Popeye, an assassin who had slain hundreds for Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel, passed away in a Bogota hospital from stomach cancer rather than being shot. The National Penitentiary and Prison Institute of Colombia announced to local media sources that John Jairo Velasquez, age 57, had passed away. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today, we'll be looking at what happened to Pablo Escobar's deadliest hitman. Yeah, you heard it right. So, let's start our video. Since the 31st of December, the serial killer, who received his nickname from the fact that he had supposedly served in the Colombian Navy at one point in his life, had been hospitalized. After having spent an original sentence of 23 years in prison after turning himself into authorities in 1992, he was reincarcerated in 2018 after having been freed from prison for the first time in 2014. The assassin admitted that he was personally responsible for the deaths of more than 300 people on behalf of the cartel boss who ruled Colombia in the 1980s and early 1990s. Escobar would be riddled with gunshots on a rooftop in Medellin in December 1993 after Colombian forces, the Drug Enforcement Administration of the United States, and Escobar's one-time partners in the drug market collaborated, albeit in a looser sense, to finally end his rule. Popeye had been one of Escobar's main go-to hitmen, also known as a sicario. He helped the boss set up hits on politicians, judges, prosecutors, and police, in addition to bombings that terrorized a nation that was descending into chaos fueled by the drug trade. Popeye was a constant presence at Escobar's side and was one of his main go-to hitmen. The assassination of presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán in August of 1989 and the horrific bombing of an Avianca plane later that same year were the two most heinous crimes that were connected to Popeye. When assassins armed with machine guns invaded a political event where Galán was speaking, many people believed that he was on the approach of making a breakthrough in Colombian politics. Galán is still a renowned figure in Colombia to this day. In the bombing of the Avianca airliner, led by Escobar's cartel, a jetliner was detonated as it flew from Bogota to the western city of Cali, resulting in the deaths of all 107 passengers on board, as well as 3 people on the ground. As a result of his spur-of-the-moment decision to skip the trip, presidential contender Cesar Gaviria, who is widely believed to have been the intended victim of the bomb, wasn't even on board. In 2018, Popeye described the suitcase bomb as a work of art in an interview with the Daily Beast. An impressionable young man had been convinced to open the case in the middle of the trip by the cartel, who had told him that they intended to use it to record a passenger's chat. The explosion had been set off after the youth had done so. Instead, it resulted in the explosion being set off. At the time, the cartel's primary objective was to eliminate any politicians who had given any indication that they might be inclined to hand up cartel members to the United States authorities. 2 of these politicians were Gaviria and Galán. Gaviria would eventually become the president of their country. We were all aware that if the bomb exploded in the wrong place, it wouldn't ignite the plane's fuel tanks, and the captain could save the plane, Popeye told the Daily Beast. So we created a domino effect with the fuel stored in the wings of the plane, the dynamite in the briefcase, and the pressurization of the aircraft, a lethal composition. Popeye asserted that the warlord, Carlos Castao, was the mastermind of the attack, which has been the subject of a variety of unsubstantiated accusations, some of which have been made by criminals over the course of the years. Castao would eventually turn against Escobar and help to hunt him down. He would then go on to lead his own drug-running paramilitary, Murder Squad, comprised of 30,000 fighters in the middle of the 1990s. Another assassin working for Escobar, Dandeni Muez Mosquera, often known as La Cuica, was found guilty of the bombing by a court in the United States. He had been detained in the United States on other charges in 1991. Even though the bombing of the flight had occurred in Colombia, he was eventually determined to be qualified for trial in Brooklyn on the grounds that 2 of the passengers of the flight had been United States citizens. He was handed 10 life sentences, and he is still being held in jail in the United States. After his release in 2014, Popeye published the book Surviving Pablo Escobar and became an internet celebrity. In his YouTube videos, whose Popeye Repentant channel had 1.2 million subscribers at the time of his death, he railed against leftist politicians, with one video containing a warning against supporters of former presidential candidate Gustavo Petro, according to the Associated Press. In talks with reporters, he even reenacted his methods of murder, much to the shock of the families of Escobar's victims. Velasquez had been reincarcerated since May 2018 on charges that he plotted to conduct extortion. This occurred a significant amount of times after his sudden rise to prominence, and amateurish attempts at local political activism had begun to irritate a large portion of the country. It had been reported by Colombian media outlets that he was held at the maximum security prison in the city of Valledupar. It is believed that he maintained connections to the criminal underworld of Medellin, even though he has been preaching forgiveness and reconciliation ever since he was first released. The next year, in 2016, he gave an interview to The Guardian in which he justified the use of a slow-motion bullet to introduce his YouTube clips. According to what the hitman revealed to the publication, even at that early stage, the hitman already had a significant following, which allowed him to generate revenue from the website. It may appear to be celebrating criminality, but it is for the purpose of attracting young people, he stated. There's a certain degree of morbid interest regarding the killings, particularly among young people, the author writes. By the time he passed away, Popeye had only ever been found guilty of committing one murder, which was that of the politician Galan. And that's all for today's video. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section down below. I hope that you found this video interesting, and if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. See you in the following video with some more of the latest updates, and until then, stay tuned.